Sometimes we mistakenly assume that intimacy is purely physical, just two bodies meeting, skin against skin, a moment of desire flaring and fading. We reduce it to a fleeting act, something instinctive and momentary. But when you stand before the right person, someone who truly sees you beneath the surface, something far more profound emerges. It stops being about physicality. It becomes about energy. It's a stirring deep within you, something ancient and often forgotten. In that moment, intimacy transforms into something more than affection or comfort. It becomes a quiet certainty. You can't always define it or trace it to any specific moment. Yet deep inside, something tells you this meeting isn't random. It's as if your soul, silent for so long, finds its voice, though not through language. Even without speaking, something sacred is exchanged. It's a resonance, a quiet affirmation, that you're exactly where you're meant to be. It can feel like the two of you have been walking parallel roads for years, each carrying wounds, searching for something unnamed, until your paths finally cross. And then intimacy becomes more than passion. It becomes a portal between inner worlds that recognize, nourish, and gently begin to transform one another. Carl Jung once said, "There's an ancient knowing that awakens when we meet someone who reaches the core of who we are." This isn't just a poetic notion, it's deeply symbolic, even visceral. It's like the unconscious rises to whisper, "There's something here you need to live." Not something to dissect logically, but something to experience with your whole being, something that shakes you, breaks you open, and rearranges you. That's why, with the right person, intimacy becomes sacred. It's no longer about giving your body, it's about revealing your soul. And though that kind of honesty can be terrifying, it's also liberating. With the right presence, your soul no longer hides. You don't need to pretend or protect yourself. You're simply you, unfiltered, unarmored, and safe. This kind of connection creates a protected space, a container where every defense can drop, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. It's rare. Many live their whole lives without ever encountering it. Not because they don't long for it, but because they settle. They accept shallow connections, temporary warmth, relationships that never touch the essence of who they are. But when someone awakens that deeper part of you, something shifts. Your heartbeat changes rhythm. Your breath synchronizes with theirs. Your mind, usually full of noise, goes still. What you feel isn't just desire, it's presence. That undeniable presence of being exactly where you're meant to be. And in that stillness, even if everything else fades away, something meaningful is happening, something spiritual, something real. And that kind of bond doesn't always arrive gently. Sometimes it comes like a storm, stirring fear, vulnerability, even confusion. Because to touch the soul is also to touch old wounds, to stir parts of yourself long buried. It can be overwhelming, yet within that chaos is clarity, a calm center that whispers, "This is real," because the connection exists for more than comfort or romance. It exists to transform you. True intimacy mirrors your real self, the one hidden when no one's watching. It strips away the masks, the roles, the survival layers, and what it reveals isn't always easy to face. But if you're willing to feel it all, without running, without judging, something begins to mend. What takes place isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. A deep reordering of your inner world. It's as though, in seeing yourself reflected in another, your soul recalls its original form, one shaped before fear, trauma, or denial altered it. And no, this isn't about being rescued. That's the illusion many fall for. It's about remembering. With the right person, you don't lose yourself. You find yourself. They don't consume you. They light you up. The most powerful part? This connection doesn't give you something new. It reawakens something already inside you. something waiting for the right presence to bring it back to life. And here's a truth many avoid. Not every intimate encounter transforms. But when one does, you feel it, not just in your body, but in your breath as it deepens, in your thoughts as they quiet, in your soul as it stops searching. With the right person, your inner self no longer feels threatened. You're not guarding, you're allowing, you're surrendering. There's no longer a need for performance, no need to bury your pain or play a role. Intimacy becomes a sacred ritual, a space not where you fall apart, but where you begin again. And the most mysterious part, the body knows before the mind. It senses the harmony, it recognizes the frequency. That's why when someone resonates with your energy, logic isn't required, explanation isn't necessary, it just happens. It's a kind of unspoken agreement, a hidden language between your deepest memories and someone else's soul. You didn't plan for it, you weren't waiting, and yet somehow it finds you. When it does, the things you once chased, control, certainty, validation, start to loosen their grip. The urge to force outcomes fades. You realize the soul doesn't follow calendars or checklists. It waits, silently, patiently, for the moment it recognizes itself in another. And when that moment comes, everything becomes sacred. Every experience becomes healing, not because the other person fixes you, but because they hold space for you to truly see yourself. And deep down, isn't that what we're all searching for? To be seen, not for our appearances, not for what we need, but for our soul. To be touched, not by possessive hands, but by a gaze that knows how to hold presence. When that happens, when you feel safe enough to show the most hidden parts of yourself, that's when transformation begins. Without even realizing it, that person becomes a catalyst. They didn't come to complete you, they came to awaken you. And you didn't arrive to heal them, you came to remember, because everything you needed was already within you. You had just forgotten, buried beneath expectations, fears, and unhealed wounds. Then one day, someone appears. They don't offer solutions or promises, but their presence alone invites the right questions. They don't rescue you, they walk beside you while you learn to rescue yourself. And that is intimacy, a space where two people choose to be real, not perfect, not finished, just honest. In that space, pain isn't hidden, it's held. Silence isn't uncomfortable, it's grounding. And bodies aren't used to avoid emotions. They become vessels of truth. They become bridges connecting two inner worlds, finally ready to meet. With this person, there's no pressure, no pretending, no games to earn affection. There's honesty, presence, soul. Something quietly profound begins when intimacy is no longer a distraction, but a path to growth. You're no longer consumed by desire, driven by fear of being left. You don't give yourself away just to be kept. You don't try to seduce in hopes of being chosen. You simply exist. And what arises from that space is something genuine, something deeply felt, something you value and protect. With the right person, the spiritual isn't forced, it naturally reveals itself. It doesn't need to be staged, it unfolds on its own. And without realizing it, you begin to shift. How you see yourself, how you feel in your own skin, even how you breathe. Everything softens. You feel lighter, more connected, more alive. Then you begin to see, not all connections are alike. Some people pass through your life briefly, but there's one, just one, whose presence unlocks something deep within, a kind of intimacy that lingers, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. It touched parts of you long forgotten, hidden behind layers of protection built from time and pain. Yet somehow, this person appears, and without pushing, without needing permission, they gently reach the core of you. They don't force their way in. They enter quietly, they see you, they listen, and they stay. The spiritual doesn't always come as fireworks. Sometimes it's the quiet that tells you something sacred is happening, a stillness that doesn't numb but holds. In that stillness, with this person, intimacy brings clarity. There's no confusion, no insecurity. You feel more like yourself, as if your shoulders finally drop, as if your body can rest after years of holding tension. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not chasing expectations. You're simply here, breathing, feeling alive. And that feeling, your soul has known it long before your mind could explain it. In that shared presence, something begins to settle. Inside you, not outside. And you begin to realize, maybe it wasn't a lack of love that hurt you before, but the habit of offering yourself in places where you were never truly seen, where your presence was tolerated but not valued, where your soul went unnoticed behind someone else's wants. But now, with this unexpected connection, you begin to understand real. Intimacy doesn't ask you to sacrifice yourself. It doesn't test or push. It welcomes you. And in that welcome, something new starts to rise. Not a better version of you, but a more authentic one. One that's whole, connected. This person didn't come to save you. They came to remind you. You never needed saving. That all of you, your light, your wounds, your uncertainty is worthy of love. Then something shifts. Like an invisible cord you've held tightly for years is finally released. You breathe fully, perhaps for the first time in a long while. This isn't about magic, it's about truth. And when intimacy is rooted in truth, it becomes sacred. You may not understand why this bond moves you so deeply. You may even try to resist it, question it, explain it away. But it's no use. What the soul recognizes, the mind can't unsee. Deep down, you know, this is not or. Not everyone is prepared for this kind of intimacy. Many pull away without realizing, not because they don't want it, but because it scares them, it exposes them, it demands honesty. Because when someone truly sees your soul, you can't hide. Behind titles or smiles or practiced defenses, you are bare. And if you're not ready to meet yourself, it's easier to run than to stay. That's why some disappear just as things get real. It's not rejection, it's fear. Fear of being touched in unseen places. Fear of being known beyond the surface, but you're not here to repeat old patterns. You're here to change them, to choose differently, to give yourself permission to live a truth that logic can't explain, but your whole being can feel. And when you stop guarding yourself from love and begin living within it, your soul shifts. You move to a new frequency, one that can't exist in shallow connections or conditional affection. One that aligns only with truth, with what nourishes and transforms you. That's when you understand. Spirituality isn't distant or abstract. It's happening now, in breath, in pause, in quiet shared space between two people, in the way they touch you without possession, in the way they listen without interrupting, in how they look at you when you're doing nothing at all. Those simple, real moments matter more than 1,000 promises because they aren't trying to win you over. They're simply walking beside you. And walking beside you doesn't mean carrying your burdens or fixing your pain. It means being there, fully present, with nothing more than truth. It means being beside someone and knowing you're both holding space for something meaningful. In that space, there's no pressure to have all the answers. You don't have to be strong every moment. You can cry without shame, laugh without restraint, and be yourself, without apology or performance. This kind of intimacy shifts your understanding. The body is no longer a tool for validation or attraction. It becomes a vessel for something higher, a path to spiritual expression. Every touch carries intention. Every breath shared carries meaning. Even the silence between moments becomes significant. It speaks not in words, but in recognition. You sense it, not because it's logical, but because your soul remembers. Maybe you once imagined it without knowing how to describe it, but now you're living it. And even as the world keeps spinning, you don't feel pulled to chase after it. You stay present. You're no longer rushing toward the future or avoiding the past. You're grounded in the now, and for the first time, you feel at home within yourself. This isn't coincidence. It's a culmination, a response to every wound, every release, every moment that prepared you for this. You don't go out searching for this kind of connection. It arises naturally. It appears quietly, without force, and when it arrives, you don't need to fully understand it to recognize its truth. It doesn't ask for explanations or validation. It just is. You feel it as something deeply real. There's no internal struggle, just a quiet knowing that something meaningful has entered your life. It doesn't shout or demand attention. It stays. It becomes part of your life as if it had always belonged there, and you recognize it because something within you aligns, clicks into place. From that moment forward, nothing less will feel right. Experiencing. This changes you, not in dramatic, visible ways, but subtly, permanently, like discovering a melody that's always been playing quietly in the background of your soul, now finally heard. It's hard to explain. It's not something you describe, it's something you feel, something you live. And once you've felt this kind of depth, you can't go back to superficial connections. You become more aware of what truly reaches you, what uplifts you, what stirs something deeper inside. From then on, your soul simply won't settle for less. You come to realize not all closeness is real intimacy. Not all connections carry the same weight. Some people don't just touch your skin, they touch your past, your fears, the stories you never told. They reach into the quiet places within and offer a kind of presence that transcends time and logic. They show up right where you need them, even if they don't realize the healing they're offering. And this type of intimacy isn't measured by time or frequency. It's measured by depth, by how deeply it reconnects you with the part of yourself you forgot. The version of you buried under pressure, expectations, or survival. In their presence, your true self feels welcomed. You no longer need to filter your thoughts or hide difficult emotions. You speak from your center. You hold their gaze without flinching. You breathe without apologizing for existing. This is the kind of freedom that transforms. Not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to be, fully, honestly, without fear. And when someone offers that, asking nothing in return, no pressure, no manipulation, you're witnessing something sacred, something that deserves care. Authenticity is delicate. When it reveals itself, it deserves to be honored. This doesn't mean things will always be easy. Perfection isn't the goal. What matters is the truth within the connection, the ability to be imperfect together, the strength to face both the sunshine and the storms without running. Real connection doesn't disappear when things get hard. It deepens. It grows stronger when both people choose to stay, to listen, to speak from the heart, not from the ego. And that is rare. That is invaluable. That's what the soul recognizes as home. Sometimes, in quiet moments with the right person, unexpected emotions surface, feelings you hadn't let yourself feel in years, maybe ever, tears you didn't realize you'd stored, sighs you forgot how to release. There's something about that connection that awakens old memories, some yours, some that feel older, almost ancestral. You don't need to fully understand them. Your body knows it's safe now, safe to let go. Safe to rest, safe to finally put down what it's carried for far too long. That release isn't weakness, it's healing. It's the purest kind of surrender, not of defeat, but of liberation. And you begin to realize that the most spiritual moment you've ever had didn't happen during a ritual, in a sacred building, or in a vision. It happened in the stillness, shared with another human being, skin to skin, soul to soul, breathing in sync with someone who expects nothing but transforms everything simply by allowing you to be. In that shared space, something sacred emerges. Recognition. The deepest kind. You see each other, not roles, not masks, not personas, but essence. And once you've experienced that, you can never see connection the same way again. You no longer seek proof or certainty. You just know. And in that knowing, there's peace. One that no logic can offer. Something inside you shifts. Quietly, gradually, without struggle. You begin to make different choices, not out of fear or need, but because you've now experienced what's real. You've touched what's meaningful, and once you've felt that, you can't go back. Your standards evolve. It's no longer about being wanted, it's about being seen. You seek someone who stays, who listens, especially when you can't put your feelings into words. Someone who doesn't run when the connection deepens, when it begins to shape the rest of your life. Because when intimacy is genuine, when it's sacred, it doesn't try to change you. It guides you back to who you are when you're not performing, to what you feel when you're not hiding, to what you dream when no one's watching. In that space, your own personal, sacred space, you start to understand something essential. Love isn't a destination. It's a way of being. It's how you breathe with awareness, how you treat your own soul and the soul of another. Without fear, without pretense. If you've experienced this, you already understand. And if you haven't yet, don't worry, don't rush. These connections don't arrive through effort or force. They show up when you're ready, not to fill emptiness, but to grow from wholeness. When you no longer give yourself away in hopes of being chosen, but because you've already chosen yourself, and from that place, everything changes. Everything begins. If something in this message spoke to you, if it stirred something, softened something, lit something up, then I invite you to join something deeper. This space is more than a channel. It's a gathering point for souls who want to go beyond surface-level connection. For those ready to awaken something within, you're here for a reason. So, share this message with someone who may have forgotten what it means to be touched by truth. Leave a comment. Let me know what moved you, what you felt, what you remembered. Your words could be the mirror another soul needs. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Become part of this community, a living space where each message is a step toward a more present, conscious, and honest life. Tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming, because this is just the beginning. Together, with every voice, with every story, we can reach more hearts, awaken more souls, and remind each other of what we've always known. The spiritual isn't somewhere far away. It's right here, in how we love, how we see, how we connect, and how we live moment by moment with truth. Thank you for being here.